what? Part of standing up for Canada, part of making Canada strong, starts with making life affordable again. And that's why this morning I announced that a new Liberal government will deliver a middle-class tax cut that will save families up to $825 a year.
Today I'm announcing that Canada First Conservatives will cut income taxes by 15% for the average worker or $2,000 for the average couple. We will do it by reducing the lowest bracket from 15 to 12.75, which is a 2.25% percentage point reduction, and that works out to a 15 percentage reduction in the overall tax bill of everyone earning up to $57,000.
So here's our plan. This is what we want to do. First off, for the first $19,500 that someone earns, no tax on that. We want to make sure zero on that, and to give some people some more relief that way. So for the first $19,500 that people earn, zero tax. And that'll give people a savings. We want to take the GST permanently off of your monthly bills that are essential. So that would be your internet, your cell phone, your home heating, and take it off of daily necessities.
Political party leaders, as you heard there and saw there, have been unveiling a slate of policy promises over the week. The U.S. president, however, continues to hold Canadians' focus. As a result, in part of that, a major narrative heading into week 2 continues to be the Liberal resurgence in public opinion polling at the expense of both Conservatives and New Democrats. So can we expect a holding pattern for the next 4 weeks, or are we perhaps in for a twist? And are the leaders' policy announcements moving the needle with Canadians? The Scrum is here to answer those questions. Nick Nanos is the Chief Data Scientist and founder of Nanos Research. Joël Denis Belvance is the Ottawa Bureau Chief for La Presse. And Judah Malise is a reporter with the Globe and Mail in our Ottawa Bureau, in their Ottawa Bureau. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Nick, I got to start with you because you have brand new numbers out, 6 a.m. What a significant difference, I mean, for the Liberals just in the last week.
Oh, think of it this way, Vashi. The Liberals have picked up 8 points in 8 days. There's a political freight train. It's called Mark Carney. He and the Liberals are bearing down on Pierre Poilievre, Jagmeet Singh. Like, why don't we go all the way through? What we're seeing is the Liberals picking up support, basically, from the New Democrats, from the Greens, from even the Bloc. And what we're seeing is a coalescence of support behind the Liberals. It's 42-37, and the NDP are down to 11. They're down from 8 days ago, and they're also down from the last election. They were at 18.
Let me just quickly follow up with you on that point, because if I look at the numbers, there's not a huge difference week to week for the Conservatives, but there is a big difference for the New Democrats. So are Liberals primarily gaining at the NDP's expense, Nick?
At this point, yes, because before they were picking up from the Conservatives when the Conservatives had the 27-point advantage. They kind of repatriated those voters. So now they're picking up from what I'll say, the universe that does not like Pierre Poilievre or is worried about Pierre Poilievre being prime minister. And that's why they're picking up from the New Democrats and basically almost all the other parties.
I know that you've been at some of the campaign stops, JD. You've been talking to a lot of people. Is your sense that there is more of that to come, or a plateau that could be ahead? Like, what is your feeling on the trail?
It's hard to say if it's a plateau. If it, at 42% seems to me so high. I've never seen the political parties get 40%, 42% in election in years. I think maybe back to Brian Mulroney. Yeah. So that's been a long, long time. We'll see. But events will happen this week. We know will influence the election campaign, as it has been the case the first week. And with the tariffs coming up on Wednesday, I expect this to dominate. And so we're sort of in different circumstances. We're sort of in the election campaign, but also in a governing mood. And that helps a lot the governing Liberals and the Mr. Carney, who happens to be not only Liberal leader, but also Prime Minister these days.
Yeah, I mean, that came to a head this week, right, Jude, where I felt like in the first few days of the campaign, I was like, oh, this actually feels like the campaign I would have thought a number of months ago would unfold. All of the initial announcements were around pocketbook issues, for example, addressing that people still feel there's a cost of living crisis. And in you know, a couple of hours, the news cycle was completely tossed. The campaign was sort of upended because Donald Trump said, in a few hours, I'm bringing in auto tariffs.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump has dominated our federal election campaign, and the issue on top of mind for Canadians has become him and not those affordability issues. Those affordability issues are still obviously very important, but Canadians are looking at who can lead Canada through these tumultuous times, and each leader has had to answer to how they would deal with Donald Trump. And, you know, the Conservatives have held on to a significant amount of support. Their base is strong, but there's clearly panic in the campaign about the strategy of still trying to build the campaign narrative around the Liberals, around affordability, instead of just completely pivoting to the issue of tariffs. You saw multiple stories in multiple news outlets this weekend talking about insiders being discontent with the tactic the Conservative campaign has taken. And that in itself can become a liability throughout the campaign if you have Conservatives, unlike the last 2.5 years, many of them letting the leader speak for them, now speaking out.
Well, and just to underscore that, I mean, we reached out to the campaign, Nick, about the level of confidence in the campaign manager. They responded that Pierre Poilievre still does. They said yes, still has confidence. As far as where the issue, though, might be penetrating around Trump, around how to navigate him, I've especially got an eye on Ontario because you had them pretty competitive. Has there been any shift there? Because cost of living really matters to people who can't afford a home in Toronto, outside of Toronto, in the GTA, in Southwest Ontario.
Absolutely. You know, what we've seen is the Liberals basically closing the gap with the Conservatives in battleground Ontario. That's not good for the Tories in terms of converting into seats. And, you know, yes, the cost of living, housing, groceries, still important, but they all connect to Donald Trump. You know, the fact of the matter is that Mark Carney has benefited from being the leader of the Liberal Party and Prime Minister. He's able to look prime ministerial and respond to Donald Trump. So he's getting a bit of a 2-for-1 on this. If Pierre Poilievre doesn't pivot, he may become a political footnote as the guy that messed up a 27-point advantage and lost to the Liberals. That really not a popular party and still are not popular. It's just Mark Carney is seen as a better alternative today.
What about in Quebec? I just want to play a quick clip this weekend from the leader of the Bloc Québécois, and then I'll get your take, JD, on how things are unfolding there. Let's listen.
Last time I checked, Canada was supposed to be a democracy. Last time I checked, Mr. Carney did not understand that. Someone has to remind him. He's not calling me very often to be reminded of those things. I'm sure you will convey that. But of course, any treaty has to be supported and voted in the parliament. If not, what's the point of having a parliament?
Aim, JD, at Mr. Carney very specifically there. Why would that be? What's happening to the Bloc in Québécois?
Well, they're losing ground to the Liberal Party in a very spectacular way. And as drug meeting in the rest of Canada, Mr. Blanchet cannot find a way to attack Mr. Carney without, you know, putting himself in trouble for the following reason. Quebecers are not looking for somebody to defend Quebec right now. They're looking for somebody to defend Canada as a whole. So
which is unique in and of itself,
yes,
right?
In the election campaign, we have seen that since the 1990s, before the creation of the Bloc Québécois. So it's quite amazing. And the fact that Mr. Blanchet is now counting on the leaders' debate to be able to change the political fortunes of the Bloc Québécois just tells the story. The Bloc Québécois is in great difficulty in many areas. They could lose up to 10 seats to the Liberal Party, which is, you know, unheard of.
Najid, I'll give the last word to you. The leadership debate's still a few weeks away. What will you be watching for this week on the trail?
Well, obviously, Donald Trump might drop a bomb on Canada on April 2nd.
Wednesday, Liberation Day, so-called Liberation Day.
So we saw last week that Donald Trump had a different tone towards Mark Carney than he had towards Justin Trudeau, calling him the Prime Minister, saying the conversation was very productive. So it'll be very interesting to see what Donald Trump does. Does he go forward with tariffs on Canada? Does he somehow delay this because there's an election going on? And how does Mr. Carney handle that? You know, again, to Nick's point, Mr. Carney kind of has the advantage of sitting in the Prime Minister's seat and being able to defend Canada on the international stage in moments like that, whereas Mr. Poilievre is still the Conservative leader and doesn't have that same power. So that's the big thing I'll be watching this week.
Yeah, let's see what happens Wednesday. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate the discussion. Najid Amaliz, JD Belvalls, and Nick Nanos.